Hello everyone, I'm Sue Jankowski. You're watching PHTV4 and today it's Pet Care. We're really happy to have you here today. We're going to be talking about how to keep our pets safe and healthy and happy in this summer weather. We have with us today Dr. Rachel Thomas. Thanks for coming in today, Rachel.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. She comes to us from Palos Animal Hospital right on Harlem Avenue in Palos Heights. And we also have Jennifer Fischer. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Jennifer is a volunteer and president of Traveling Tales Dog Rescue. So thank you both for coming in today to talk about our pets. I think everybody just about has a pet, and it's nice to get some great information about that too. So, you know, summer, we're all outside, including our pets. Pets are spending a lot more time outside, and we've had a heck of a summer this year, particularly with the heats and so forth. We don't have to worry about that freezing weather here in the Midwest, which is a nice change. But we do have to worry about the health and happiness and the care of our pets during this weather. So I guess what we need to know is what does that heat bring about, and how do we protect our pets, and what kind of risks do pets have regarding the heat of summer or the humidity of summer?
Pets, it's important for them to go outside just like it is for us. It's a natural thing for them to do. Dogs need to be able to go to the bathroom, and they also need time to exercise and play. But the summer months do bring about the risk of the additional heat. Even the act of playing outside for too long of a time or too heavily can cause them to have something that is called a heat stroke. Heat stroke is a condition where the body temperature gets too high, and it can affect not just their body temperature, but it could also affect and cause problems to their other organ systems if it is elevated too long. There are certain dogs that are more at risk for this problem. Dogs who are very young, dogs who are very old, dogs that have a very thick hair coat, and then one of our breeds and types of dogs that is most at risk are any of the dogs that have that very short muzzle or that cute little pushed-in face. So think of dogs like the Pug, the Boston Terrier, the Shih Tzu. Dogs that have that conformation have a harder time moving their air and can't cool down as effectively. The way that dogs get off most of their heat is by panting because they can't sweat. And so when they're outside and they're in the summer heat and they're in that summer sun directly, if it starts getting too hot for them, they can start to get heat intolerant and start panting more heavily. You might notice that they get this really thick, ropey drool. They might start really moving their air and using their belly to breathe. And then in certain situations, their heart rate will start to get too high. Sometimes they'll start to get uncoordinated, and in really severe cases, this can be a fatal condition. They might start to vomit and have bloody diarrhea. They could also vomit blood, and in severe cases, we can see seizures be triggered.
Okay, well, I mean, it really is so important. So it depends also on your type of dog is what you're saying, so those with that short kind of muzzle.
Any dog can have a heat stroke,
okay,
but these are the dogs that are more at risk. So
correct,
again, are
yes,
very young, are very old, the dogs that have thicker hair coats, and the dogs that have that shorter snout.
Yeah.
Any dog can have it, but this group of dogs is more prone, so owners of these kinds of dogs need to be especially vigilant.
Okay, so I want to take my dog for a walk, and it's 92 outside and very humid. Is it wise to do that? Do you bring water with you? How do you protect your dog who needs to have that exercise? Like
Absolutely. So there are ways that we can try to plan for these situations. So walking your dog earlier in the evening or later, earlier in the morning or later in the evening when it is a little bit cooler out is one way that we can try to mitigate some of that risk. Now there are dogs that do need to go outside in the middle of the day to use the restroom, or because that is the time that you have to take 5 minutes out of your schedule when you're working from home or when you're on your lunch break. And so taking steps to keep this walk very short, watching your dog's behavior and staying close to home or being close to your car if you need to get them into an air-conditioned area very quickly there. Some of the easy steps. The other thing that we do worry about is black tops. And so those black tops can get really hard with the concrete. And so if it is too hot for you to leave your hand on it for 5 seconds, then we have to worry about it causing discomfort and potentially burning their paw pads. So walking them on grass, trying to let them walk more so on sidewalks rather than the blacktop tar tops, that's things that we can do. And if you are concerned about it, there are booties that you can train your dog to wear so that way they have a little bit of an extra barrier. You just got to make sure that you take them off as soon as they get back inside.
What about small dogs versus large dogs? Does that make a difference, or it's just mostly their coat or age?
Coat and age can do it. Smaller dogs, when we deal with heat, they may be less tolerant, but a larger dog also has to get that heat off of their body, and they have a larger body mass to help cool down. So there is risk for both of them there. Other concerns that we would have is, does this dog have any other health conditions? Because animals that have problems with their respiratory system or problems with the ability to move their air and pant effectively are at a higher risk of having this problem. And so they are going to struggle more, say, than the 2-year-old dog who has a longer snout. So again, any dog can be affected by this problem. All pet owners need to be vigilant, but if what I'm saying sounds like it may be like your dog, you need to take some extra precautions.
What about your dog? Like I've noticed when we're walking with our dog, if it's too hot, or I don't even think it's too hot, the panting starting rather early. Is that to be expected, or does it mean my dog is really overheating at this point?
So panting is how dogs help to cool themselves off. So a little bit of panting can be normal, but if you're starting to see this in this hot summer climate, as your dog's owner, you need to take responsibility and say, okay, maybe we should go ahead, instead of doing our normal mile walk, maybe we just go around the block once and then go home. And so if you're starting to see those early signs, getting them into the shade, getting them into the air conditioning, getting them a small amount of cool water to drink, not cold, but cool, to help get them feeling more cool, just like us. If it's too hot for us, we sweat, they can't.
So thinking about getting your pet exercise, and I don't see it all that much when the weather is really hot, but there's a lot of folks who ride their bikes, kind of dragging their dog along with them, or they're running and they have their dog with them, and sometimes I wonder if that's a great idea for the dog to, they have to run because they got to keep up with their owner. Is this something you shouldn't really do in this heat?
Again, when you're dealing with extreme heats, we have to be very mindful of our pets. Different animals have different tolerances for exercise, but even in these climates, we can see fit dogs who are athletic, who can typically run next to their owner while they're on the bike, struggle. And so if it is hot out, I would recommend that you guys take the consideration and maybe pull back on how you're exercising your dog a little bit, maybe doing shorter, more frequent exercise sessions, again, in the beginning of the day when it's cooler, at the end of the evening when it's cooler.
Okay. Just to shift a little, there are some people who allow their cats to be outdoors. And so those cats, I would think, would have similar problems.
They absolutely can.
Okay.
They absolutely can. It is less reported, but cats can also suffer from heat stroke just the same as dogs do. We see a lot of the same signs, and so if you do allow your cat to go outside, again, you need to be vigilant of how your cat is acting, and if you're seeing those signs, getting them into a situation and then contacting your veterinarian about how to proceed next.
Okay. If you're noticing your pet is like starting to really suffer or going into that heat stroke kind of mode, what would be the first thing that you should do to help them?
First thing that you need to do is get them out of the heat. I know that kind of seems like a common sense thing, but get them indoors, get them into the air conditioning, get a fan on them, and then you can mist them with a little bit of cool water. Again, we don't want that water to be cold to help them get a little bit moist so that way they can start evaporating off that heat as the fan blows on them, and then call your veterinarian to talk about getting them in as quickly as possible to be evaluated and make sure that they're safe. Animals who have had a heat stroke usually need to be hospitalized for a period of time to be monitored, depending on how long they were in the heat stroke and how high their body temperature went. We have to monitor them for the effects to the other organ systems because, again, we're worried about their liver, we're worried about their kidney, we're worried about how their red blood cells are doing, did they have any kind of seizure-like event, and so monitoring them and checking their blood work, getting them on fluids is going to be really important.
Just thinking about the pets and an adopted pet. I mean, we all adopt a pet from something. But John, I was wondering, with people who have adopted a pet, and there's no history with them because they don't know the pet. It's a mature 5-year-old dog. Should they assume that the dog could have had some kind of issues, or does your adoption of a pet through a group like yours, the rescue, does they kind of give people a little bit of a background so they have some kind of knowledge about that pet?
What kind of, you mean like health issues?
No, I'm talking about specifically, I guess, health, but walking and heat and you know, a mature pet is different than a puppy. And I'm assuming there's more mature pets in the rescue business. So would you be able to kind of guide those people a little bit, or should they just go to a vet right away?
Well, I mean, the dogs come with a full medical history. We have all the records and everything. They come with their initial vaccines. And, I mean, if there's any noted events that have happened in the past, of course, we share those with the adopter. But once people adopt a dog, they should definitely go to their vet and get the pet established, you know, as a new patient, and, you know, take it from there.
Okay, so that vet can kind of give you that information on that, especially if you're someone who's not really familiar with the care of a pet. You know, if you're new to taking care of pets, if you're kind of experienced, you sort of know some of these things. Okay, is there anything else that we, you know, for summer that we should kind of know about as far as taking care of your pet?
Yes, and so we've talked a lot about being outside, but one of the things that people sometimes forget is cars. And so when you have a pet in a car, that car heats up to dangerous temperatures very quickly. And so if you cannot safely leave the air conditioning on for your dog in the car, and you have to get out of the car and turn it off for any reason, you should not bring your dog or cat or pet, any pet, with you on that excursion. You should find a pet sitter or leave them at home, because we don't want that car to become a very dangerous situation.
And leaving the window open like
that
this
is not
is
sufficient.
Not
at all, because that car is going to continue to get hot, and as that dog starts to pant, as the heat builds up, they are going to be adding to that heat, and so this becomes a potentially life-threatening, fatal emergency.
I can see that, and so when you, I've actually called for help when I've seen pets with this much air and it's very hot and the owner's not coming. You think, I've got to call a 911 thing, because that pet is going to really suffer. So I have done that, and I think it's okay to do that. You know, I'm sure that the rescue groups, the police and so forth, are used to calls like that, because that dog or pet will be in serious condition. I mean, if you've ever been in a car yourself and the windows are closed, I mean, I have just briefly, and you know how hot it gets.
It
oh
is.
My gosh.
It's very uncomfortable.
So that is something to really take an issue with. Okay.
And then other concerns with the car is that when you transport a pet, there are some steps that you need to take. And I think that Jen had some things that she wanted to discuss from her experiences with Traveling Tales.
Yeah, I've actually brought a few items here with me, but we do a lot of transporting with dogs across the country. So every dog that is transported with the transport volunteer, they are wearing a martingale collar, which is very helpful. So basically you hook the leash on here and it pulls, you know, so it tightens so the dog can't slip out. So this is an important tool. It has to be fitted properly, of course, to work properly, but this is great for transporting. Then they have a regular leash. We also have slip leads, which you put this on your dog, and again, if they pull, it tightens, and this little thing, you know, moves. So this is helpful. And then you can also tether your dog into your car with like a little doggy seatbelt. So this goes into the seatbelt, and this goes onto the dog's, you know, collar or harness or whatever, and this helps them from not jumping out of windows or just escaping. So if a dog is a little bit afraid and we're transporting, you know, it's going from person to person, for example, or something, and it spooks out, it can't just jump out of the car, you know.
You know, I see dogs traveling with their owners, you know, their heads out the window. They're having a great time. Dogs love to do that. It always makes me really nervous, because I'm thinking, what if you stop quickly and your dog doesn't? So you're recommending, like, you have some sort of system to keep that dog tethered to the car at this point. What about some of these little dog seats that you see? You know, you put them in like old-time baby seat. Have you ever seen that? Do those work at all?
So they're not something that I've quite seen, but I do agree with Jen that having a way to secure your dog when they are in the car is a good way to go ahead and do this. There are lots of different products that are on the market. So if you have one that you're interested in, or you have questions about, like if you found a dog car seat that you were wondering, is this safe, contact your veterinarian, and then they can talk to you about the specific product that you're interested in.
Oh, that's great advice, because you don't know. You can read all the recommendations, but sometimes, you know, contacting the professionals who really know their, you know, what products are good for your dog. And, you know, you've got little dogs, you've got gigantic dogs. So all of these pets can be in danger in your car. And even though it's fun to have the dog with you, maybe you have to have the dog with you because you're going somewhere. But if it's just a day where you want to go to the grocery store and take the dog with you, and it's not the best day for it. Actually, I'm not even sure any day is the best day to leave your dog in the car.
Correct. It's sometimes convenient to say, oh, I'm going to go take the dog for a hike and then I'll stop at the grocery store on the way home. I wouldn't advise that. I would take the dog home and then go run your errands. It might be an extra step for you, but that's going to be the safest step.
It really is, no matter what the weather, whether it's cold, hot, or whatever it is, your dog. I always equate my dog to having a 2-year-old, and you wouldn't leave your 2-year-old. So, your dog or your pet is really depending on you to do the right thing. Okay, well, thank you both very much for that information about taking care of our pets in the summer, making sure that they're safe and happy and healthy. And, everybody loves their pet so much. You just want the best for them. If you have any questions, you should contact your veterinarian. They're the best person to go to for getting advice about your pet. Thanks again, Dr. Rachel. Jen, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching us on Pet Care. Bye-bye.